let's get to what's going to piss you off. And if it doesn't piss you off, you got problems. Simons is a Canadian clothing. I think it might even be only a Quebec clothing store, but it's Simons. It's got that little green logo. I used to pick up my suits there. Simons, all is beauty. Simons deciding to get into the social commentary, supporting euthanasia industry, because that's what corporations are supposed to do. I'm not playing the whole thing, and I'm going to turn the volume. Oh, here. This is a portion of the video, people. Let's make sure we're looking at the same thing, and we are. Listen to this.
Dying in a hospital is not what's natural. That's not what's soft. In these kind of moments, you need softness.
That's all we're watching, because it's going to make me too angry. I'll say it every time, just so nobody misunderstands anything. I am not against euthanasia. I am not against people choosing to die with dignity. We are well past death with dignity for terminally ill people whose existence is nothing but misery and suffering for the short period of time that they have left on this earth. Period. Simons is a goddamn clothing store. Made a 3-minute video to someone named Jennifer. And at first, when everyone's shitting on it, I'm saying, okay, I watched it. It's a 3-minute video. And I was like, I said, it cannot be that Simon has decided to foray into making pro-euthanasia videos. Not that you can have that opinion, and applied properly, few people should take issue with it. At first, when everyone's freaking out about this, I said, no, surely it's just Simon's agreeing to subsidize someone's dying wish. Someone wants to make their own video. They don't have the money. They don't have the means to do it. Simon says, here's a bursary. Here's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a subsidy. You know what I'm talking about. Here's a grant. Make the project yourself, Jennifer. It's, not everybody has 15, 20. That thing probably costs like a good $50,000 to make, at least. Not everybody has that. Jennifer is presumably terminally ill, hence the request for medical assistance in dying, doesn't necessarily have the means or the ability to do it. I thought maybe Simon said, here's a grant, tell your story. Oh, no. Simon, we listened to the interview of the chief marketing officer, whoever it was from Simon's, explaining why they did it. They did this video. They said after the last 2 years of everything we've been through, they thought it was an important discussion to get into. Simon's, they made the video. 3 minutes. Jennifer had full creative control, I guess, or veto power. They showed her the product. She approved of it, and they went with it. Jennifer was euthanized. Jennifer was given the medical assistance in dying. Well, the National Post ran a story. When I first started talking about it, and I didn't know all the details, but I knew that it was no longer a case of Simon's grant, given a grant so Jennifer could produce this. It was Simon's themselves saying, we're doing this. It's our project. We think this, we want to get into this domain of politics, life, law, humanity. After everything everyone's been through over the last 2 years, we decide to glorify ending your own life. Someone said during that stream, and I remember it, Jennifer did not have a terminal illness. She had a disease, or a condition, which I couldn't identify. And I said, interesting. I can neither confirm nor deny that, and I don't want to be accused of spreading misinformation. Well, National Post just went and eliminated all doubt. I'll show you the article. We're not going to go through the whole article, but National Post confirmed that and more. Woman featured in pro-euthanasia commercial wanted to live, say friends. Quote, I'm feeling like I'm falling through the cracks. So if I'm not able to access health care, am I then able to access death care? Hatch said in a CTV interview. Jennifer Hatch, with a Y, just in case anybody wants to look it up and get the right one, 37, was the central figure of All is Beauty, a 3-minute film produced by Simons that celebrated Hatch's last days before seeking medically assisted death. That's the article. I'm just going to go to the highlighted sections, which I shared the screen grabs and the links. So sometimes I just feel like I'm going crazy, that I have to be misunderstanding the world, and I'm not, and it makes me sick. Feeling this is the headline here. Look at this. Last week, CTV confirmed that Hatch was the same woman who had spoken to them in June about her failed attempts to find proper treatment for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare and painful condition in which patients suffer from excessively fragile skin and connective tissues. She was seeking proper treatment for a very painful condition. And when she couldn't find that in the socialized healthcare system of Canada, well, the government offers you a very, very wonderful alternative: death. Hey, and it saves them millions of dollars as well. I feel like I'm falling through the cracks. So if I'm not able to access healthcare, am I then able to access death care? And that's what led me to look into MAID. Then I looked up the condition, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. There are two types. Classical and hypermobility forms of Ehlers syndrome have a normal life expectancy. About 80% of patients with vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that's a different type, will experience a major health event by the age of 40, and their life expectancy is shortened with an average age of death of 48 years. I can't pretend to know the differences. I just know that the vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome results in thinning of arterial lining. And so basically injury can lead to bleeding to death, stroke, and all sorts of other premature deaths that shorten the life. Whereas classical or hypermobility forms, painful but normal life expectancy. She chose death because in Canada's socialized free healthcare for all, she couldn't get adequate healthcare to the point where she chose death. The woman featured was not only not suffering from a fatal illness, she wanted to live but couldn't get proper care. State-sanctioned murder. The blood is on Justin Trudeau's hands. It's not just a black pill. It's not a doom pill. It's not. The most shocking thing about all of this is the moving of the needle, the moving of the goalposts, and people who are not trolls, who seem to be humans with brains, justifying this and then justifying it to themselves. So I get into a bit of a back and forth with someone in my Twitter feed who has created a Twitter account to address my misrepresentations of Canadian law. And I know that I'm not supposed to engage with trolls, and sometimes you do it to, inform the general public by way of. People say, they're terminally ill. What do you have against it? It's like, first of all, this syndrome is not a terminal illness, period. It's a condition, not a terminal illness, to which these goalpost moving trolls with seemingly with very little respect for the sanctity of human life say, oh, it causes a shortened life expectancy. There's a difference between reduced life expectancy from a condition and a terminal illness. Do you know what else results in reduced life expectancy, shortened life expectancy? Diabetes, obesity, heart condition. Those are not terminal illnesses. One has a meaning and the other has a different meaning. But the idea now that there is a segment of the Canadian population that are being induced into believing that now what satisfies for medical assistance in dying, euthanasia, or other names, mercy killings once upon a time, what satisfies the criteria now is the inability of the system to provide adequate health care and reduced life expectancy. And this is how it's the slow degradation of humanity. I mean, it's enraging that people can now, the choice to die is an individual's choice. When the government has a vested interest in a specific outcome, As they do, by the way, because, hold on, life can only be understood backwards, yet it must be lived forwards. Oh, here's the Zelensky Person of the Year. Life can only be understood forwards. CBC, maids, cost save millions. Look at this. I know I saw a recent study on this. Look at this. CBC, state-funded media. Canadian Pravda, medically assisted deaths could save millions in healthcare spending. Report. No judgment. No absolute outrage. No. Let's see. Across Canada, Journal calculates up to $136 million in savings. CBC, funded by the federal government. It's the federal government, whomever it has to be, but it happens to be, but it just happens to be liberal now. Over $1 billion, $1.2 billion tax dollar funding of CBC and Radio-Canada. New research suggests medical assisted dying could result in substantial savings. Oh, holy shit. Did I need research to tell me that killing someone is cheaper than letting them live and providing health care? Did I need research to that? Thank you, Captain Murderous Obvious. By the way, this is from January 23rd, 2017. I bet no one knew where this was really going to go at the time, except some people probably knew. Hey, new research says letting people kill themselves instead of treating them will save money for the government. And who rubber stamps the certification for the medical assistance in dying? The government, that stands to benefit hundreds of millions of dollars by granting them the right to die. Doctor-assisted death could reduce annual healthcare spending across the country by between 34 million and 136, according to a report in the Canadian Medical Association. The savings exceedingly outweigh the estimated $1.5 to $14.8 million in direct costs associated with killing Canadians. The takeaway, quote, the takeaway point is that there may be some upfront costs with offering it, but there may also be a reduction in spending elsewhere in the system. Because you're not a human anymore under the Canadian healthcare system. You are a burden. You're a financial burden, and the government now has a vested interest in allowing you to eliminate your own financial burden from the system. And they decide when to approve it and when not to. The research, the thing that I'm shocked at, I want to make sure that end of life costs are high in Canada. Is there any rage in here? The report also emphasized that it is only a cost analysis and doesn't include the clinical effects on patients. Patient-level research will need to be done before true economic evaluation of medical. No outrage, no disgust, no. I'm sorry, government. Has the cost of human life and your inability to provide adequate health care, is that the motivation? To grant people the right to die, so you could say they can get killed now? None of that. And why would there be? You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. The fat little wild animal that once was the media, the lean, eager go-getter of a wild animal that the media used to be and ought to be, has now become a fat, gluttonous little pig, sucking at the teat of the government, not even questioning, not questioning, not getting outraged at the notion that the government would say, hey, if we expand euthanasia to the non-terminally ill, we could save a lot of money. Hey, if we expand it to the mentally ill, people who in law are incapable of consent in some circumstances, if we let them do it, we'll really save some money. Oh, hold on. If we expand it to children and minors, we'll really save some money. Geez, imagine ending the life of the earlier you end the life of someone, the more money you save off whatever healthcare would be required for them. And then you get these entities pressuring people with PTSD. Veterans calling to live, they suggest dying. People looking for adequate housing, can't get it? Have you thought about death? And it's happened. People with chemical sensitivities can't afford proper housing, choosing death, and the government authorizing it. Oh, but I'm the rage bait dude for raging against this dying of the night, dying of whatever it is. You don't. It's, if it doesn't shock you, you got problems. There's no words. It's state-sanctioned murder. it went from terminally ill, dying with dignity, to not even terminally ill with conditions that the system can't handle, to not even physically ill. And I don't say not even as in mental illness is any less debilitating than physical illness, but physical illness in the context of medical assistance in dying, euthanasia, or as it was once called, mercy killing. Physical illness is a lot easier to identify as a legitimate potential justification for euthanasia. Expanded to mental illness. Expanded to mental illness and minors. It's not a crime. It's a crime against humanity, but I guess it's more specifically a crime against Canadians, and it's cloaked. It's cloaked under the veil of benevolence, humanity, death with dignity, because the system that the government has set, the government system to treat the ill is so crappy, so fundamentally corrupt, wasteful, incapable of handling the seasonal flu. Hey, you know, it would save us a lot of money. Let them kill themselves.